So this question is a bit long. I will just focus on the ID. So this question is from Astrid Androsch from App Stories. So this company is doing robotics and for skincare. In fact, they have an Industry 4.0 and a robotic organization that can make some very dedicated, very personalized products. You can order online a specific skincare just for you. And their question is about because they are also working in B2B, and their question is on the difference between the time, the industrial time, and the venture capital time. Sometimes it takes a huge amount of time for a company to make a decision, for a customer to make a decision, to make a change and to adopt things and to adopt a new way to produce. So, and venture capital, there's a need for fast return. So how do you handle this aspect? And you must face that so often at the hardware firm.
Well, and the question is kind of interesting because the question is saying, yeah, you know, big companies who could be potential customers or partners are slow and a pain to work with. So, hey, VCs, can you be even more patient? But, you know, so I would debate kind of the premise here. The other thing realistically is there are different types of venture capital firms and each of them has a different horizon, right? When someone is fundraising, it's important to know kind of who one is talking to because there's some people who, you know, we focus on the pre-seed, seed, and Series A, so fairly early stages. In some cases, we're investing in folks as they're still developing a prototype. So, which is, you know, we're not expecting a fast return like, you know, one year later the company to have an exit. We'd consider that probably an unfortunate exit if that were to happen. And most venture capital firms have, you know, kind of cycles, fund cycles of like say 10 to increasingly 12 and 15 years. It's changed over time and it's actually lengthened, especially people who are investing in things like deep tech, where there's an understanding that the technology is going to take some time to develop in the first place and then take some time to have a foothold in the industry. Certainly there are people who invest in later stages who are expecting faster returns. You know, they're expecting smaller returns, but in the shorter amount of time, and they'll invest kind of shortly ahead of an IPO or perceived acquisition. But I'd say, you know, venture capital is one solution, and there are firms who are very patient capital. There are also, you know, foundations and institutions. You know, there's things that look like venture capital firms, but actually are funded by, say, in some cases individuals, some cases corporations, some cases family offices, and have an even longer kind of approach towards, you know, return, or may not even be seeking a financial return, but are really looking for societal good sort of return. There are a number of those that have been created. You know, one of them is like, say, Emerson Collective, which is, you know, founded by the Lorraine Powell Jobs, the widow of Steve Jobs, and you know, successful businesswoman in her own case. And so, you know, they're one example of an entity. And then you also have governmental entities, right? You have research grants in various areas. You know, Europe, Israel, Canada are especially strong in those areas from governmental grants to kind of foster innovation. That's going to take longer time. So there are a lot of different options for entrepreneurs tackling things where they think it's going to take some time. You know, VCs and the others can't fix a problem of some of the partners in the ecosystem being challenging to work with. You know, some of them basically, you know, Steve Jobs had an expression when he was talking about telcos. He referred to them as orifices, you know, between the technology makers and customers, and it's tough to squeeze through orifices that could take a long time. And that kind of informed the way he kind of approached, you know, with his teams, the creation of the iPhone and how the relationship they're going to have with their customers, which is very different from the old days where typically you bought handsets through carriers, and the carriers dictated a lot of the feature set. So and some organizations can be challenging to work with, but maybe it's also a business model innovation that needs to be done in that case for the startup to kind of disintermediate themselves and find a different path to their end customers.
Okay, yeah, work on the business model. Very interesting. Thank you. John, do you have a comment on that? Because you used to work as a venture capital, corporate venture capital.
Yeah, I think industry gets, you know, rightfully so, I guess, this fast, you know, lack of speed. But to our defense in general, especially larger companies, when you mature at a certain, when you mature and you get to large scale, you kind of want to be steady and predictable, right? And that maybe translate into slow and lethargic, right? Maybe in the negative sense. But you want to be able to produce in, let's say, the car industry, reliably every car is exactly, it has exact same quality, right? Because you don't want to be the customer that gets the lemon, right? And that takes an organization that is predictable and steady, right? And that again might translate into slow and lethargic. So I think there's a kind of it's sort of maybe a misunderstanding of why are they so big, right? Or so slow. It's like, well, you kind of want that. You kind of want that to be like your food or your car or your thing just to work all the time, every time, whenever you want, wherever you want, right? And if you have this agile organization, it's also shifting and like what it's doing, the quality won't be there, right? And so that I think that is a defense. That said, things are changing, so we need to be, as industry, needs to be changing and thinking about that. And there needs to be part of the company that is dedicated to being different and new and innovative and strange relative to core business.
Yeah, you don't want to move fast and break things in things that have human safety involved, right? Or in this case, right? I think as you mentioned, it was a skincare company, right? Same thing, right? Yeah, skincare. You want some degree of testing before the stuff gets applied. You might want to be working out. You don't want to feel the wrong burn from the product.
Right.
Yeah, but what they do at AppStories, you have product lines and you can change a mix. And what the smart factory is doing, they have the capability to change the mix according to each client and
Sure, yeah.
each design. So it's let's say it's a fine tune. It's not a radical change of products, not a full pivot from one product to another.